Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. It's your boy Nolan Hawkeye Anthony here, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic week wherever you may be and however you may be listening. I got a huge preview for y'all today. Iowa versus Maryland, a battle of the two undefeateds, 4-0, both of them heading into this matchup. And I gotta say, in all of the Iowa Hawkeye games that I listed as games that would decide the outcome of the Iowa Hawkeye 21-22 campaign, Maryland certainly was not on there. But the more I take a look at this game, the more I am convinced that this is indeed a spectacular matchup. But before I get into any of that, I want to mention going to 247hawkeye.com. And I really hope that you guys consider hitting that subscribe button. It really means a lot when you guys do that. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is build an Iowa Hawkeye community on YouTube where we can get together and hang out. The reality is I've only been doing this for 4, maybe 5 months, and we are already inching 300 subs. And it's not because I'm spectacularly good. It's because you, the Iowa fan, you are exceptionally amazing. So I really appreciate it. But if you don't think I've earned your subscribe, at the very least, like, comment, share. I definitely try to get to every single comment and respond in one way or another. And be sure to come and hang with us every Saturday morning for the pregame live show and after for the postgame show. And without further ado, let's get into this. You know, Iowa fans, part of me hoped that Maryland would have inched into the top 25 before this matchup with Iowa, because it would have made Iowa beating them look so much better. And that would have given Iowa 3 top 25 victories. But it doesn't look as though Iowa will get that chance. Who knows? Maybe Maryland will be ranked, a couple of games down the line. But I'm going to show you why Maryland is not currently ranked. And once I show you, I think you guys will better understand and actually, for once, believe that the pollsters have this somewhat correct. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, I will be sharing the PFF grades. To be honest, well, never mind. I'm not going to say that, but I will be showing you guys that. I don't know if I am necessarily allowed to show it, but if you don't tell, I won't either. No, I'm joking. But kind of serious. But here in the background, these are the games that Maryland has played, and the only game that Maryland has played that is of any consequence is West Virginia. And even then, this is not a West Virginia Mountaineers team that is as good currently as previous West Virginia teams. They're not bad, but they do currently sit, let's see here, let's counter up. They do currently sit at 2-2, losing to Maryland, and their wins coming against LIU and Virginia Tech, not necessarily ringing endorsements. But going back to Maryland, okay, and I just wanted to show you the West Virginia team that Maryland beat, okay, not a world beater. If I were to describe the West Virginia team that Maryland beat, I would probably compare it or liken it to the Pittsburgh team that Iowa beat in 2015. The other game that that Maryland has played that was an okay victory, not great, but still a Big Ten Power 5 caliber victory, was against Illinois. Now, again, folks, Illinois currently sits at 1-3 on the season. Okay. Illinois has beaten Nebraska, but they lost to University of Texas San Antonio. They got smashed by Virginia, and they lost to Maryland. And this past weekend, they also lost to Purdue. So again, even though Maryland beat a Big Ten opponent, this is not a Big Ten opponent that is necessarily worthy of me going above and beyond for the type of victory that this is. And upon analyzing this, it looks as though the pollsters are saying to Maryland that if you want to get into the top 25, it's high time you guys beat someone of note. And in my eyes, that's about accurate. That's about right, because to date, they have not beaten anybody. And while they are 4-0, smoke and mirrors are still smoke and mirrors. If you're a 4-0, but with smoke and mirrors, there's still smoke and mirrors there. And it is what it is. Now, I'm not saying Maryland is all smoke and mirrors. I do actually believe that this is one of the most important games Iowa will have on their schedule, as I said at the beginning of the video. But I also don't think that Maryland is as monstrous as maybe some Iowa fans and some media members are making them up to be in their own heads. And I get it. I get it. You see 4-0 and you think, man, this team must be really solid. But context always matters. That's what I always try and give you: context, context, context. Let's take a look at SI.com's written preview for this game. The number 5 Iowa Hawkeyes, 4-0, 0-0 Big Ten. Actually, they're 1-0 in the Big Ten. That's actually incorrect by Sports Illustrated. Come on, Sports Illustrated. Come on. 3.5-point favorites on the road at Capital One Field at Maryland Stadium against the Maryland Terrapins. 4-0, 0-0 Big Ten. Wrong. They're 1-0 also. Both teams have stout defenses, with the Hawkeyes 3rd in points per game allowed and the Terrapins 8th. This game has an over-under of 45.5 points. Now, again, the only asterisk I would put next to it is Iowa has played 2 top offenses in the entire country. Well, 1.5. Indiana certainly was a top 40 type of, well, no, Indiana and Iowa State were considered top 40 type offenses. Okay. Now, that's not elite, but still good offenses that Iowa, with good quarterbacks going into the season at the very least, that Iowa absolutely dismantled. Now, West Virginia is also known for being a good offensive team, so I will give Maryland credit there. Here's the spread: 3.5 point favorite for Iowa on the road against Maryland. I've seen places have it as high as 4 points, Iowa being favored. Over under insights: Iowa and its opponents have not yet scored more than 45.5 points in a game this season. Maryland's games have gone over 45.5 points in 3 of 4 chances this season. The combined points per game average of the two teams, 66.1, is 20.6 points more than Friday's over under. These two squads combined to allow 25.3 points per game, 20.2 fewer than this contest over and under. By the way, if you guys want to read this little part of SI writing about Iowa and the spread, I'll just summarize it for you like this. I, as someone who look at Vegas and trust Vegas for the most part, do not pay attention to Vegas and Iowa. Iowa is almost impossible to project because there are many times where Iowa's offense explodes way more than what Vegas expects. Iowa does not fit into the perfect box that the media and the top dogs in college football expect them to fit. You never know. The Iowa defense could let up. I hope they don't, but they could. But generally speaking, they're very sound. The thing that gets Vegas the most is the potential for Iowa's offense to just blast wide open. or underperform drastically when Vegas expects the offense to be on track. And that has happened a few times. All right, let's take a look at some of the Pro Football Focus grades for both Iowa and Maryland players, shall we? Here we go, guys. Here we go. Spencer Petras is considered the 15th best quarterback in the country by Pro Football Focus. And I know some of you guys are going to dismiss this right off the bat, and that's fine if you want to do that. But what I would caution you against is if you're going to dismiss Spencer Petras's grade, then you virtually have to dismiss every other grade because how I see this is a one size fits all. If you believe PFF stats for one grade, then you need to believe it for all of them. Now, and I think that the correct way of looking at PFF stats is that they are mostly correct, but obviously flawed. And that just is what it is. And for me, I'm not surprised by Spencer Petras being 15th in the country. His stats are not unreal, but they're also not drastically poor either. And he's winning football games. That is the number one thing that I have been trying to point out to the hashtag blame all quarterback guys or blame the quarterback guys, is that if you ultimately believe that Spencer Petras needs to move down the depth chart, you need to ask yourself two questions. Number one, okay, is there a significantly, not just a little, but significantly better option than Spencer Petras? Because if the answer is no, you got to just stay with Spencer Petras. And then the second thing, if you answer yes to the first one, is it worth breaking up the momentum that Iowa has on this 10-game win streak in order to get a slightly better quarterback in there? And for me, the answer to both questions is a resounding no at this point. Maryland's quarterback, Taulia Tagovailoa, checks in as the second best quarterback in the country. And this is probably going to be the Iowa defense's toughest test against the quarterback this season. Michael Penix Jr. and Brock Purdy are both fine college quarterbacks. Okay. Now I'm not as high. I was never as high on Brock Purdy as some other fans were, but they are both just fine. Okay. And Iowa just completely confused them on a majority of the plays. And I don't know how good Taulia Tagovailoa actually is, but this is as much information as I can give you. He is second on Pro Football Focus grading scale, and I will actually put this up. He has a passing grade of 92.4 and a run grade of 72.4. Last year, he had an overall grade of 64.7. So we will see what he actually is come Saturday. I will also pull up his stats, and I will tell you guys what I think of Taulia and how good he actually is momentarily. But for now, let's take a look at some more PFF Iowa Hawkeye grades. Probably the biggest surprise so far this season has been, for me at least, Tyler Goodson. And it's not ultimately an issue that I think cannot be fixed. I think it can. But Tyler Goodson, even though he's had two decent games of 100 yards, I think one of them he got 99. I'm not sure. And his stats don't actually look that bad. The PFF grade having him as the 157th best running back in the country says it all to me. And my biggest problem so far with Tyler Goodson has been him dancing too much. In the NFL, guys learn to just take what they're given, take the yards that they're given, because if you lose yardage, or if you try to make something out of nothing and lose yardage, which you usually do because the speed of the game is so fast, you'll be yanked out of the game quicker than you even realize. And that's my biggest problem with Tyler Goodson is there a ton of space for him? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. I can't see, only the Iowa coaching staff and ultimately Tyler Goodson can see that. But from what I can see, sometimes I wish he would just hit the hole and get those 2-3 yards that are right in front of him. But I do believe that this can be shored up. I do believe that we will see the Tyler Goodson from last year start to emerge, and I am not overly concerned about Tyler Goodson's production thus far this season. By the way, before I show you guys the tight end grades, it is worth noting that no Iowa wide receiver is graded high enough as to be in the top 308 or so graded players. I mean, I have to go all the way down to 500. Charlie Jones, 578, and he has a grade of 54.2. Let's see what else we can find here. See, Tyrone Tracy has a grade of 57.3 and is the 511th best wide receiver in the country. Let's see if there are any more Iowa players. There we go. Nico Regani, aka Nico Raggiani, comes in at 423 with a grade of 60. Now that does surprise me a little bit, and that tells me that Nico potentially has been open a few more times than we realize, and actually is doing a good job blocking and things like that. That's the only answer I can give for him being higher than, because the stats do not indicate where he is. If I had to guess, I would say potentially, nope, that's it. Keegan Johnson probably doesn't have enough snaps, minimum snaps, to be in there. But there you guys have it. No Iowa wide receiver is in the top 300 in PFF's grades. Sam Laporta checks in at 61st in the country with a grade of 66. That is up a couple of spots from last week where he checked in at about 70. Tyler Linderbaum moves into the top spot for centers in the entire country. His pass grade is a little low, but his run block grade is just so beautifully high at 85 that it about makes up for everything. So hats off to Tyler Linderbaum there. Let's take a look at the guards for Iowa here. Let's see how much Connor Colby's grade changes. Justin Britt stays at 8. However, he did not play. Connor Colby slides down to 20. But that's still very high, guys, for a true freshman who's just getting his feet wet. So, I can't really fault him there. Cody Ince checks in at 28. And the bottom line is this. All their grades, 74.9, 76.5, and 81.3, are all above average grades. So ultimately, the issues with Iowa's offensive line have to be more on the outside than the interior of the offensive line, with the center and both guards being top 25 players at both of their positions. Yeah, here you go, guys. Nick DeYoung checks in at 195 with a below average grade of 61.0. That is just not going to cut it. And Mason Richmond checks in at 224th with a grade of 59.1. That, my friends, will not cut it. And here we go with Matt Hankins, still the second best corner in the country, and Riley Moss at number 10. Let's take a look at the linebackers real quick, and then we will get. I also want to take a look at the defensive line. Justin Jacobs moved down to number 12, but still has an overall grade of 81.6. And Jack Campbell moved up. Some of you guys were asking how in the world Jack Campbell could be so far back, before the game against Colorado State. But now he is 51st and has a grade of 73.9er. Zach Van Valkenburg is 21st in the country with a grade of 85.1. That'll get it done. That will do. That's a good number. I'm going to see if there are any other Iowa Hawkeyes in the top, whatever they're at. Joe Evans checks in at 128 with a grade of 72.5. Let's see who else we can find. Let's see if John Wagner can be found up in this list. There's John Wagner at number 370 with a grade of 60.3. Not terrible, but John Wagner does need to improve with the quickness for this Iowa Hawkeye team, because there's two things that, in my opinion, always determine an Iowa Hawkeye season: the upfront success and the run game. Noah Shannon checks in at number 58 with a grade of 78.2. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of the stats that you need to know for Iowa versus Maryland and some of the keys to the game. ESPN is giving Iowa a 56.8% chance to go into Maryland and win this game. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on the stats here for the individual players. Spencer Petras has 684 yards with 4 TDs and 1 interception, compared to Tagovailoa, who has 1,340 yards, 10 tubs, and 1 interception. Tyler Goodson has 364 yards, and Fleet Davis of Maryland has 311 with 4 tubs. And receiving, the top receiver for the Iowa Hawkeyes still is Sam Laporta with 214 yards and 2 tubs. For Maryland, it is Demas Jr. with 446 yards with 3 tubs. And again, Iowa is a 3.5-point favorite. Here are some of the team stats. Points per game: Maryland averages 37.3, Iowa 28.8. Points allowed per game: Iowa allows 11, Maryland averages 14.3. Total yards per game. This is going to be a tale of who can establish their game the most. Maryland with their 519.3 yards per game, or Iowa's slower game of 293 yards per game. And we shall see. Maryland is better at both passing football and rushing football thus far, but they give up 212 yards per game compared to Iowa's 187. And Maryland gives up 111 yards on the ground, almost 112, whereas Iowa gives up only 84. Here we can see Iowa has the number 3 scoring defense in the entire country, but Maryland has the 9th best. Now, again, I'm not super concerned about Maryland's defense, or any more so than I was concerned about Iowa State's defense. Okay. Again, Maryland just has not played anyone that would give me any pause or second look to say, ooh, that's a really good win. That's not disparaging them and saying that their 4-0 start is completely null and void, because it's a good start. But I do need, beating Iowa, quite frankly, even if it wasn't Iowa, that would help out for me as an Iowa fan. But beating Iowa would go a long way in saying what type of team this Maryland team is. And ultimately, that is why this game is so important for the Iowa Hawkeyes, because this is one of those games on the schedule that you do not, that you cannot predict before the season starts, but it's a team that rose past preseason expectations and is a team that came out of nowhere. That's why predicting the strength of schedule before the season is just stupid, because you never know when a team like Maryland is just going to come up and become a much better team than what you thought in the preseason. Here is the rushing defense. Iowa has the 18th best rushing defense in the country right here at the very top. And Maryland has the 38th. So still decent. You know, that's definitely not terrible. Maryland also gives up a sack and a half a game. I'm not sure where Iowa is on this list. I'm sure it's not super good, though. And this is the last major stat that I wanted to show. Total defense. Iowa checks in as the 13th best total defense in the country, which is still a little surprising. I mean, their defense has been lights out. But 13 is still elite. Okay. Anything in the top 15 is elite. I mean, Alabama is 19th. Maryland, let's see if we can find them here. They check in as the 45th best total defense in the country. That's going to about do it, guys. I mean, I've given you all the major stats. I've given you guys some PFF grades for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Here are some just stats that can be burned into your head, comparing Maryland to Iowa. This is what it comes down to for me, okay, is how much can Iowa establish the run against Maryland? How much can they move forward with their offense in 1 week from what we've seen in the previous 2 weeks? We've seen a few good things, such as the ability to hit a deep threat. I still think Iowa can hit the deep threats that they hit against Colorado State, against Maryland, with Keegan Johnson or whoever it is. However, with that, and ultimately, we all know Iowa needs to get their running game back on track, whether that's a commitment to the run game, even when it hurts Iowa, whatever it is. And I do think it's important to note, Iowa in the first 4 or 5 games of the season rarely show all of their cards. They purposely keep things close to the vest. And Kirk Ferentz did comment that moving forward, they will need a different plan as far as the offensive game plan goes. And I think that is important to note. I do believe that Iowa will probably have to rely on their defense at least for 1 more week. This Iowa team hopefully can get some takeaways, give the Iowa offense a few more extra possessions. Hopefully Caleb Shudak will be able to be as solid as he's been on the at Iowa. As I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully Shudak can be as solid as he's been at home on the road. Now, he was solid at Iowa State, but you never know going into Big Ten land. So hopefully he remains okay there. At the end of the day, folks, Iowa is Iowa. They're a complementary type football team. One phase ultimately helps another phase. And one thing that I am confident going into this game is that Iowa has a better special teams and a better defense, as both of those aspects to this Iowa football team are both elite. And that's the thing that most people are missing about the Iowa Hawkeyes, is that 2 of the 3 phases, even if you do not value special teams that much, Iowa is very elite at. And if Iowa can find a way to turn the aspect of their squad that is elite into a positive against Maryland, they should be fine. I think it's very possible that Maryland is completely overblown and Iowa goes in and just dismantles them. But would it surprise me if Maryland catches Iowa off guard? No, that would not either. College football is quite interesting indeed in that way. Keys to victory are simple. Offensively, 3 things: run the football, run the football, run the football. Number 2, hit on a few deep threats, deep passes. And number 3, get some consistency going. Stop being so clunky. That is one of my biggest pet peeves with the Iowa Hawkeye offense is how clunky it is at times. It needs to be smoother, just a nice gradual climb and ascension into 30-point territory, 30 to 40-point territory. And then defensively, get to the quarterback, contain Tagovailoa, and maybe get some interceptions. Who knows how Tagovailoa will play if he gets frustrated, if he is in the dirt most of the game and has 1 or 2 turnovers to his name. As I said, Iowa fans, I think that this is one of the most important, if not most important, under the radar games for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I am going to pick Iowa to win this game 25-17. They beat the Maryland Terrapins. I wouldn't be surprised if Iowa opens this up to a 10-point victory, but I don't see the offense getting there quite yet, although they can. And again, it would not surprise me. This is a very important game for Iowa to make it to the bye week, make it to Penn State undefeated with a huge showdown and remain in the top 5. This is a game Iowa is favored. They are more talented than Maryland, and they should win this football game. So I am taking the Iowa Hawkeyes here, 24-17. I think I said. I don't think Iowa will score more than 30 points. I'll put it to you guys that way. And I think that they will hold Maryland below 25 points. And so it's just up to Iowa to score a few more points than what they ultimately hold Maryland to. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are amazing. The last preview video I did for Iowa versus Colorado State has almost 3,000 views because of you guys. You guys are truly amazing. So I really do hope you guys consider hitting that subscribe button. It really means a lot when you guys do that. And if you don't think I've earned it, like, comment. I try and comment on all of your guys' comments and interact with you, because ultimately what I'm trying to do is build an Iowa Hawkeye community where we can get together on Saturdays and hang out. And speaking of where to hang out, be sure to look for the pregame live show and postgame live show I do on my YouTube channel. It is fun. I read all the comments in the comment section. So it is a good time. And to be sure to go to 247hawkeye.com. And without further ado, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. Facts are feelings here. Feelings don't matter. Love y'all. Go Hawks. Have a good one. Bye.